Would you like to give the blessing?
Have a stand. Lord, we appreciate the day to come together and speak of issues, especially on education and culture this morning. We try to serve you in every way, and let us go forth during the day in these committee meetings, do the best we can for our people. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Gail, roll call. Honey.
Here.
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 Here. Honey.
Thanks, Gail. All right, going down to new business. Speaker Jordan, would you like to present this?
Yes, we have the education department here today to do a discussion with us on the possibility of working towards scholarships for doctoral students. I don't intend to do this the only discussion on that. I know we probably couldn't do anything until new budget time in the fall. I hope that we just do a discussion today, then possibly move this over to the regular education agenda. As you all know, our budget is pretty tight this year, but this seems to be a very worthy thing for us to consider. I know that we take care of our undergraduates at the amount of $2,500 a semester for, is it 8, Gloria, or 10 semesters? 8 semesters.
With the, yeah, with a potential for 2 more extra.
We also, I believe, are we supplying some scholarships for people that are working on masters? Okay, and we do some directed studies. And then, of course, you go over into Diane Kelly's group, and she takes care of the OPEC situation for us with those young people or people trying to re-enter the workforce. But it seems like after they get through a master's that we're maybe stopping at that point, and we have a lot, well, not a lot, not a great deal. I mean, it's not going to be the numbers like we have in undergraduate. But we have individuals that want to pursue and certainly have the capability of pursuing a higher calling, we might say. And that seems to be a void at this point of taking care of those folks unless they can get into a directed study situation. So that's kind of where I'm coming from, my background. I know that we used to help people go to law school, we used to help people go to, towards working on their engineering, the doctorate in engineering. We've worked with people in the professional areas, but now we're kind of pulling back and now I'll turn it over to Dr. Gloria and I believe,
Mr. Ando, and Mandy Scott, manager of our higher ed. We have a packet has been prepared for you on our scholarship programs. You received an email on it, but we're having copies. Right. So we're having copies made right now. So if I can just stall for a moment. In front of you, we laid out a flyer. It says Public School Appreciation Day. And we wanted to give you the agenda beforehand and also to note on our invitations to you at the last Education Committee, we said it was going to start at 10. It is now scheduled to start at 11. Facilities needed time to convert the gymnasium over from a basketball game the night before to a meeting hall of the next morning. And so just to make you aware of that. So
Thank you, Dr. Sly. Chief Byrd?
Back to the speaker's comments, I guess we've been gathering data to support what we're discussing here about more students going to their doctoral programs in different areas, whether it's in the health field or law degree or whatever. So, and once we get the numbers and get some projections, then that would be very helpful to us, and I know you guys have probably already begun that process.
We have been working on it, and we can't give you projections because we're not for sure how many would pursue, but we can tell you what we have funded to date. And we include information from undergraduate through our masters, and stuff like that. But as you get the information, then we'll open discussion on it with you so that you can look at the pages that we're referring to in this. So, and they'll be out.
Councilwoman Watts?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the location and the details, I think I forwarded it to you, but I just want to reiterate, to make sure that time change was explained to them, the teachers or the representatives of the schools, as well as the locations. I don't think the location was on the email that I saw that was sent out. Because I had a question from somebody about it.
Yes. I have been meeting with all the superintendents, and we've just finished up, and I didn't know about the change in time until yesterday. So we will be sending out information to all those superintendents of the of all the schools, really. I've already notified the southern section, but we do it by groups in the northern section, so. But we will have those out later today.
Because I think the where part was left off of the email that I saw, and I forwarded it to you. Okay.
Yeah, we'll have that out.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I have a comment. This doctoral program, I guess, would probably be similar to a master's. How much you guys are funding? $500 a semester for the masters.
Well, I tell you what, if with your permission, where I'd like to begin, the packet's being distributed, and we may have actually over-prepared to a certain extent, but I wanted to provide you plentiful information. It's really difficult to talk about the advanced degrees without also addressing what the barriers are at the undergraduate level. And so the document that you're receiving will outline we have a cover letter, outlines the undergraduate program. There's a highlighted portion which you may want to discuss, and then it goes into the graduate, and the graduate includes both the master's and any other advanced degree, PhD or doctoral. At the same time, since we're on the subject of advanced degrees, the back page includes some information which would be a timely discussion either today or at education meeting about directed studies. There's also numerous reference pages including a funding history, funding by county, for example, the astronomical costs that it takes to go to college, and a snapshot of where we are on our current budget. So, and probably it wouldn't hurt for me to remind you that we had a tremendous growth over the last year, and you all were so kind to allocate $1.3 million last year to help us fund all the students who applied. Of course, that was a one-time funding, did not carry over in our FY14 budget. We have made tremendous progress in the College Resource Center thanks to Mandy Scott and her team. We're turning around applications for both fall and spring in record time. And so as you can see from your document on the second page, the College Resource Scholarship Overview, undergraduate is our main focus. And so as dollars get tight, we would skim down to make sure that we're protecting those undergraduate degrees. We funded 3,056 in the fall and 2,555 in the spring. Now, I highlighted those areas in the middle, which you may want to discuss, and that is a little bit outdated for anyone who has been in college or has family members who've been in college. This system was set up for someone to graduate in 4 years, and it's just statistically it's not that common.
Okay, Speaker Jordan.
Yes.
How many graduate
We have, in that bottom of the page, we have 23 students working towards a PhD, 217 total in that master's program. One of the reasons why we were sketchy on the answer to this question in the past is that it's not likely that those students will finish their PhD in our funding. Because as you can see from the highlighted portion, our funding is limited to 6 semesters. And so it's not likely that someone's going to get a master's degree and a PhD within 6 semesters. So our funding essentially runs out. See, the master's and the doctorate, as it stands now, are totally looped into one. So it's that graduate fund, a 2,000 a semester. It's the same as the undergrad. So undergrad is 2,000, graduate is 2,000 a semester. And so one of the things you might consider as you look at that document, and we could certainly bring up some recommendations, is the first thing to do would be to look at the length of funding period, whether or not we want to go, say, for undergraduate, instead of graduating 4 years, we might want to go ahead and budget for them to graduate in 5 years with an extra year. And the same thing with the graduate. You may want to consider separating completely the master's from a PhD doctorate. So you allocate so many semesters of funding for a master's, so many semesters of funding for a doctorate. I mean, that would certainly be at your discretion as legislation.
It's just-
They get, if they're part-time, they get 1,000, is that right? Yeah. So if they're,
Part-time is defined, I guess, as less than 6 hours.
yes.
Most programs are 6 hours is
That's 2 classes.
Yes.
Now, that's not the way we do it in law school, but,
Yeah, I think
in law school, we do it in 3 years, and you take 1 year full-time. 6 hours, and I've been in a master's program, and 6 hours is 2 classes, and, you know, you do your paper, and you take the test, and you go to class, and we're giving them $2,000.
Well, and that's
I
exactly.
don't wanna give them any more time, is what I'm saying.
Okay. No, and that's why I brought it up. I mean, that's why we highlight those areas, and I want to provide you plentiful information so we can direct this program. I think that there are elements of it that may no longer be relevant in terms of the time when they were legislated. Things have changed. So,
I wanna figure out a way where they get down to their master's program, if they wanna go to their doctoral program, then that starts another time. We don't combine master's and doctoral program and say you got 10 semesters or something. Because we're gonna take 10 semesters to get a master's. So we need to separate out the length of time for each one. You got so long to get your master's, and then you got so long to get your doctorate, and we'll help you.
and of course, keep in mind we have a lot of our students work. You know, at the same time they're going to school, they're working, and so they may not be carrying high-level loads. They may be carrying full-time loads, but they still have jobs. So that is something we need to consider.
Well, in the doctoral part, I can see that. In the master's part, most of it, what I'm seeing is you've got a large number of kids that are, not large, at least you got 217.
Yeah.
That are pursuing a higher education. I would bet a lot of them are not working. They're just gonna go straight through. Which was what I had planned to do when I was undergraduate. And I wasn't gonna take forever to get my master's. 12 hours for a master's is not, I mean, that's 4 classes.
Right.
We start at 9 hours, that's 3 classes. Depending on what program they're in, we were expected to take another one at 12 hours, which was 4 classes. And we were expected to finish in 3 years.
Oh, I was the 3 out of 4 boys, and so we were expected to get in college and get out because there was somebody coming up behind us that needed to go. Yeah, so I know exactly what you mean. The further in your packet is, if you didn't see it, is the cost of the colleges that most of our students attend, and so at least it gives you a reference point on how much it it does cost to go to college these days.
Bill, so you're saying that if a student is in there working on their master's and they're enrolled in 6 credit hours, then we're saying that they're full-time students,
Mhm.
and we're paying them $2,000 a semester. Okay. I think we need to. I mean, this is my opinion. I think we need to change that to a full-time is 12 hours.
Yeah, my understanding, this is legislated action, so.
If the school, because I think it turned out was, if the schools say, well, we are considering this student full-time, 6 hours. So as long as the school will justify that that student is enrolled full-time, we give them full-time money. So it's, it's just based off the program at the school. We come into different circumstances like that. So if the school says they're full-time, we pay them full-time. So we're just saying that's like the minimum. Some schools, some programs allow 6 hours to be the full-time status. Not all schools.
Well, we could have in our own policy, they have to pay some amount.
Instead of the full-time, part-time, you could word it, yeah, that way.
As far as the, once they go above undergrad.
We're kind of one size fits all. Not just one program straight across the board.
And maybe we want to go to 9 hours, but it seems like it needs to be a little more than 6.
It does. I agree with you. I think it does too. Councilwoman Coates, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. I wondered, first of all, if Gail could send me by email a copy of what you all are looking at. This is one of the ways in which I'm at a disadvantage in terms of, doing this by webcam.
Yeah, she'll scan it and send it to you.
And then on top of that, I had a comment about the discussion that in, law school is a different situation. Some of the discussions are going to be a different situation. But for the straight academic, field, in any university that I've ever attended as a student or taught in as a professor, 9 credit hours is usually considered full-time. 6 generally isn't, although there are exceptions to that some universities say. 12 is more than most people are made to do for full-time in grad school. And I would just point out that when you get to the point of being a graduate student, the amount of work that you're expected to do outside of the regular classroom hours is far heavier than what it is when you're an undergrad. And so, to me, I would really urge just going with what universities generally consider to be full-time, which is 9 credit hours, and not on more than that, because most students I've encountered in grad school, they've got plenty to do in those 9 hours, and especially, as was pointed out, they're working, they have a family, which the students tend to be a little older oftentimes if they're getting into a master's program and a doctoral program after that. So those were my comments at this time. But I would appreciate if I could get a copy quickly, if it's possible, of what you all are looking at. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councilor Coates. Councilwoman Taylor?
I have several questions. How many doctorate students do you think we're trying to enroll?
We don't, we don't know the answer to that question. I mean, all we can say is that, we have 217 students on graduate, with only, 23 of those being PhD or doctorate. So I would imagine some of those are just simply timing out.
So you don't know how many they have applied that we can service.
Or how many got in and then left. I mean, that's not really the data that we have kept up to date, because we've been mainly tracking graduate level as graduate level. And so some of the suggestions about splitting masters and PhD in terms of semester funding and stuff are very relevant.
Okay, so is there a set amount of funding set aside for postgraduate work?
No, this is as you look in the packet, there's a snapshot of where we are on the budget, and so this is the same amount of money. So whatever we're spending, whatever we're talking about now affects, and that's one reason why I wanted to include undergraduate, it affects the whole thing. So it's like an ecosystem. You can't touch part of it without affecting the rest.
And so I'm just wondering, in this discussion of full-time, part-time, could we not do it per credit hour? So much funding that we will allot for a master's or doctorate.
Well, that would be equivalent to what we've done in the undergraduate. In the undergraduate, we currently have a max of 140 credit hours. So we do have students that time out on that meander, change their major, don't quite have a focus, and they
That
can
just seems
simply
like a
time
more
out on funding.
Equitable way to do it, because, as Counselor Coates brought out, that it's not, some programs are different.
Mhm.
Okay, Chief Burr?
Hey, Mr. Ando, we talked about 6 hours. When I was in graduate school, it was 9 hours. Dr. Stein, in graduate school, we took 15 hours.
Yeah.
Had to load up.
Mhm.
That was right after state week, some time ago.
Yeah.
We got it done.
I did the same thing. I graduated early. I had to get out. I was broke.
Now, in order to qualify for Pell and other federal assistance, what's the requirement there? What's the criteria there for full-time students?
Well, I mean, this is the kicker, is that there's not a lot of federal aid for graduate school. In fact, unless I'm mistaken, there is no Pell at the graduate level. So which is one of the things that hampers those students from going on to achieve a PhD.
So that's where we need to look at that criteria. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Council Lady Coates, did you get your email from, all right, thank you. All right, Councilman Lay?
Thank you, sir. And I'm hearing, a little bit about the policy guidelines that you all work by. Were they policy guidelines from education, or were they legislation, or a little of both?
Legislation. Legislation. I believe them to be all legislation. If they're not legislation, they are now, because we're talking about making changes to those. So, yeah, we're looking to you to help.
The present guidelines were by legislation.
Our legislation, I think, with the exception of the dissertation, I think the dissertation comment on this front page, on this page, is the only thing listed that is not. Is that correct? Slide?
Yes.
Is the only thing that either one of us know that's not legislation.
And
That's why it's highlighted.
And you say if money gets tight, you're gonna go back to the undergrad people first? is
That's
that
our
correct?
priority. Our priority is those undergrad, the students that are
And-
looking for the bachelor's degree.
And the studies program, we seem to be targeting, and I'm glad to see it, our physicians and RNs and that sort of thing. I really wouldn't want to bump those, because we need them so badly for all of education is good, but I'd hate to see that shrunk, to run down the road and place a lot of money on the doctoral students.
The last page in your packet includes some suggested changes to directed studies to make it more user-friendly. We have sent a notice out to all the executive directors, just reminding them once again that the program is available. But you know as well as anybody that we're not on a growth cycle. And so those departments are probably a little hesitant to put somebody in a program that basically promises them a job when they're not in a growth cycle right now.
We're not in a growth cycle in medicine?
No, I mean, with the exception of health. With the exception,
Okay.
health is the primary exception in that, because the directed
I
studies
need
are on.
doctors and nurses right now.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But the other departments have been slow to come on board, just because they're unsure, probably budget-wise, where they're gonna be in a few years.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Councilman Lay. Council Lady Fulbright?
Thank you. Looking at these numbers, I am concerned and would like somebody to explain it to me. On the at-large scholarships is almost $1 million. That's the largest amount of all. And years ago, when I first got on the council, at-large people were not included at all. I don't know how this all got switched over, and then I was told if they're Pell eligible,
Well, I can explain this.
to be at large. Then we've got 136 on here that are non-Pell, so how did they get?
They're grandfathered in. Those were students who started in area, in the program, and then during their duration of their college career, moved out of area.
Okay.
And so that's why, and I'm glad you pointed that out, because I had to highlight it in my document as well. So they started in an area and then they moved away.
I'm not saying that we shouldn't serve them, but
Yeah.
I'm saying generally speaking, in my travels, I've found that people living in the 14 county area, the students are more impoverished and need more help than those who are scattered out to the four winds.
Yeah, and so for instance, that policy applies at the graduate level as well. So the graduate level only applies in area because to be eligible out of area, you had to be able to qualify for Pell. There is no Pell at the graduate level, so that, huh?
Well, you know, when we travel to these at-large meetings, one of the complaints is they say, you don't do anything for at-large people. This directly contradicts that.
Yes, it does.
So, we do. Okay, thank you.
Council Lady Watts?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm not quite sure where we're at or where we're headed,
Okay.
but I know that at some point in your doctorate, you don't take, if you're going to use your money wisely, you only take 2 hours of continuing doctoral supervision. You're not paying for 6 hours, but you still have to find a way to live and focus a lot of time on your research. And I don't hear that being included in this discussion.
The highlighted portion in that bottom paragraph talks about funding for dissertation for 2 semesters only, just because that can drag on for some time. And so just trying to find a cap on that somewhere. And so whether it's funding for 2 semesters or we cap it by hours.
What page is this on?
That's on this, right after the cover. There's the overview. Page number 1.
Ours is not highlighted, so.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so off of that page, we highlighted the middle of the first paragraph in terms of funding for eligible 8 semesters on the undergraduate, and highlighted in the middle of the second section on limited to 6 hours. Just to bring that to your attention.
Speaker Jordan?
I just, as a follow-up question to Janelle's question, the 16 graduates that are listed at
Thank you.
large, did they also move during the time that they were working on their degree? Is that, because you have on this first page that if they're not, they
Yes.
moved. Okay, thank you.
Chief Byrd?
It's so, was that gone? Okay. Mr. Rando, it's really good to see that on page 3, the numbers there on the dropout. Because over and over, we always do the statistics. Native American dropout is when they just put us in with everybody.
Right.
560-something tribes there, and they'll say 50%. When we go to NCAI and NIEA, some of these organizations, it's good to see that we have done this for our own information. It'd be neat to compare this to the 5 tribes when we have our intertribal meeting.
That's a
Because
good idea.
those are as close as to us as far as progress in many areas, economically, education, and so forth. And that'd be good information for us if you wouldn't mind doing that. Get another slide.
Sure. We can do that, and this is certainly an area that we hope to improve upon as well, as we increase communication with our students to make sure that their funding is continued, that their paperwork is processed in a timely manner. Like I said, our goal is to get them in college and do whatever we can on our end to ensure that they graduate.
It'd be great if we had a constant 10%. That'd be a
Yeah.
good goal there.
That is a good goal.
That'd be a good start. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Councilman Gardner?
I went to school a few years back, and we had a few professional students that just went to school all the time. They go through one major and then change to another one. They had big bucks coming in from different places, but I don't think we have any in this program, but if we did, we need to cut those people off. We don't want them just to keep going to school forever. They need to get out and get a job. But what I want to emphasize today is we concentrate on the undergrads. In fact, I'd like to put most of this money into undergrad students. 2,000 doesn't go very far right now. It gets more expensive every year to go to school, and I'd rather help the freshmen, sophomores. they really need to get from school. The doctors can make it on their own. Thank you.
What Don said, you know, yes, this is a good report, by the way. You guys did a good job putting this together. On page 4, you know, the estimated cost of attendance per year. You know, if we give a Cherokee kid 2,000 a semester, it's 4,000 a year. That's a third of the cost. You know, so if they're full pale, that might cover some more. But yeah, we may want to come back to the table of maybe increasing the scholarship amount. But also, with the post-grad, these are students that are serious about school. It's like our concurrent enrollment students. I mean, they're on the ACE remedial program, and I think that's where our money needs to be focused at, because we know there's a high percent that money is going to go to a good cause versus an experimental dollar. If deciding if a kid's going to like college or not. Anyways, great comments, and yeah, I hope we can come back to the table and get something together and get something finalized with this. Is there any other comments?
I would like to ask one more question. On the undergraduate program, they are limited to 140 credit hours. If they have done concurrent hours prior to graduating from high school, do those hours count against their 140 hours? New slate?
It's new slate.
Okay, thank
It's a
you.
new start, fresh start.
Thank you, Speaker.
Yeah, and they can't bank, for instance, they can't bank undergraduate to graduate either, so you know,
Okay.
they're all, it's a fresh
It's all a
start.
fresh start. Okay, thank you.
Council Lady Fulbright?
Yes, I've got another question here that is very interesting to me. I used to teach at Carl Albert State College at South Feeder School, Poto. And the tuition cost there was just a fraction of what the cost is at NSU or OU. How did you calculate to come up with this number that it costs $12,391 a year to attend school there? How was that
Sure,
figured? Is
sure. It's
that-
15 hours living on campus, and what was your source for?
Their tuition is very low.
It was either off of the state Department of Higher Education, you know, a lot of our resources off of that.
I just don't think that number could possibly be correct.
The schools all have to report, that's a figure that they all have to report, and so some of it comes off the State Department.
Well, they
often-
must have luxury dormitories,
But,
because I know the
or
tuition
or
is extremely
they also
low.
posted on their websites, you know, the estimated cost of attendance for their school if you were taking full-time hours and living on campus. We'll double check that number, but I mean, it came from, it's our assumption that it came from the State Department.
Well, when I was teaching down there, the Sallisaw campus had 700 and something students. And the Poto campus was just a little bit larger. But no one lived on campus in Sallisaw, so I don't see how this figure could possibly be correct.
Just to added information, I don't know if you were teaching there when it was called Carl Albert Junior College,
The state college.
or because once they go to the next level, they can increase fees and expenses. So as they make that transition to a state college. Okay.
I know their tuition is extremely low. It's the lowest
Evidently,
in the
because
state.
I thought it was still junior college, but
I just want somebody to check the facts on it, because I don't think it's correct.
We'll do that.
We will do that. We will get with an enrollment office, and we will make sure that our numbers are correct.
Councilman Baker?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. On the Directed Studies program, is it still open to all Cherokee students, whether in the 14 county area or not?
Only inside the 14 county area, is that correct? Yeah, only inside.
Because
We
in the
have-
past, it had been open to all, because one of the theories was that we could get bright Cherokee students to come back and work for us within the nation.
We have a number of issues on that last page of directed studies, and we could certainly, you know, make that part of it. Because I felt like that if we're going to talk about advanced degrees, we can't talk about advanced degrees without addressing directed studies, since it's one of our primary vehicles for that. So, yeah, as it currently sits, I mean, that's just the way it sits today.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there any other questions? Council Lady Coach?
Yeah, thank you. Bill, do you know when that changed, that at-large were not included in it any longer?
No, it's an excellent question. You can recall, there's been quite a rotation in education services over the last half a dozen years in terms of different executive directors, different people in charge of the scholarship office. And so I really welcome this opportunity to take a fresh look at the policies and guidelines that are in place to make sure that they're in sync with the intent of the legislation. So, no, I don't know, but I do welcome the discussion.
Any other questions? Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to put this forward up to discussion or possible directive in the education committee.
I would like to move this discussion item with possible consideration to the next education meeting as a new, well, I guess it would be a new resolution.
Second.
Yes, I would like to continue working with you all on ideas and keep doing that for some period of time.
All right, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Like to entertain any announcements?
Thank you all.
Seeing none, thanks, Bill. Seeing none, I can entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
All